Well, since the last time we were on this show, certainly it's been a very tough week for the NASCAR community. What maybe names people have known before, have had the pleasure of having the opportunity to meet, including with longtime motorsports rider Al Pearce and longtime NASCAR publicist for Hendrick Motorsports and Jeff Gordon, Jon Edwards. Al Pearce worked for Autoweek for over 55 years, covered 55 straight or 56 straight Daytona 500s. He passed away last week at the age of 82. And Jon Edwards, after a brief illness, the head of communications for Hendrick Motorsports with Kyle Larson, worked with Jeff Gordon for most of his career, ended up passing away last week. I believe he was 52 years old. And Jerry, I want to turn this to you because of the three of us, you have certainly covered NASCAR the most. You've interacted with these two individuals more so than Tyler and I have combined. Really good memories that I have of both of these individuals. But when you think of those two names, what immediately comes to mind? What are some stories? What are some favorite memories you have of Al and of John?
I want to start with Al, because without Al, I might not be here today. Okay, I might not be covering racing. Al Pierce, when I was young and younger, I mean, I'm 53. I started this 24 years ago, so you can do the math. I started in 2001. The next year is going to be 25 years for kicking the tires. Um, I used to travel with Al Pierce. Okay, I would fly to a race. I didn't have a hotel, didn't know my ins and outs that well, but I met Al and we became friends. And I would stay. He usually had a hotel or he had a house that a friend he knew through the years that would let him use, especially in Arizona and at Phoenix. And several years I would stay some of the races. I would stay with Al. He didn't have to do that. Okay. He didn't have to do that. I in exchange, he wouldn't take money. Okay. In exchange for that, I took him to T-Bone Tom's over in Phoenix. It's the uh, T-Bones or whatever it is up on the mountain in Phoenix. I don't know if you've ever been there. I need to take you there. It's a steakhouse. Good times, man. Good memories. Al Pierce. He wrote a recap or a reminiscent story for me when I went to Le Mans 2 years ago to cover NASCAR and the 100th running of Le Mans. He wrote for Kicking the Tires his article about the first time that NASCAR ran at Le Mans. Okay, that's on our site. The videos, I did a video, with some of that stuff, and but Al was kind enough to put that together and do a nice article for me. So Al would check on me from time to time, and I would check on him. And at Daytona, um, he told me, he says, "Hey, what's your what's your next race?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be in Atlanta." He says, "I ain't gonna be there." And he says, what about Charlotte? You'll be at Charlotte?" I said, "I'm gonna be at Charlotte." He says, "Well, I'll see you at Charlotte." And he says, "I may not be there the whole race, the whole weekend, but I plan on being at Charlotte." And they got me, they told me I can't go to as many races. It's doctors and stuff and wife, friend. So I'm thinking up until last week, I don't think anything of it. I answered a couple of questions for him via email that he had sent me before that. And I get the news that, you know, Al Pearson passed away. I won't be seeing him at Charlotte. I won't ever see him again. And my understanding is the funeral is going to be in June. I plan on being there if I can, if at all possible. Um, and they it sucks because Al Pierce he was important to me. He's important to a lot of people. Um, if you want to know uh, who Al Pierce was, you should call Matt Weaver. Okay, because Matt Weaver was Auto Week. When Matt first went to Auto Week, Al thought Matt was trying to get his job, and that was never the case. Uh, Matt Weaver loved that man, and he he was broke up. I called Matt. As a matter of fact, I called Matt because as soon as I found out, um, the first person that popped into my head was Matt Weaver because I knew they were close, and Matt was broke up. He had already heard. He had just heard a few minutes before. So then I called Kelly Crandall. She did not know, and I told her. Um, so yeah, so Al touched a lot of people in the sport and meant a lot to a lot of us. Jon Edwards. was loved by pretty much everybody he met. Probably one of the most professional people in motorsports that I've ever known. Okay. I can't sit here and tell you that Jon Edwards gave me every interview with Jeff Gordon that I ever wanted because he didn't. I'm not going to lie to you. It's true. He didn't. I asked for an interview with Jeff Gordon one time and there just was no way to happen. I also asked for an interview one time, Jeff, that Jon said, absolutely, we're going to make it happen. And something came up and he felt horrible about it. So much so that he went out of his way to make sure that Jeff and I got together before a deadline I had so that I could do it. Okay. That's the kind of guy Jon Edwards was. And he didn't just do that for me. Jon Edwards did that for everybody because he was a consummate professional. Jon Edwards, the impact on the not only the sport, he knew how to talk to the media. He knew how to treat the media. They brought him back to work with Larson because they knew that when Larson came back from the suspension, that look, I'm not gonna lie, some of us are jerks. Okay, some of the media in the media center can be jerks. They don't care. I look at the big picture. I got a story to write. Most of these drivers aren't my quote friends, but I work with them, and so they're darn sure acquaintances. But good or bad, it's like I told Kurt Busch one time. I said, good or bad, I'm going to write the stories about you. And some people, I think there's some people in the media center that get off to hurting other drivers or hurting drivers with writing articles and digging up, um, some errant like on a freaking Twitter account or whatever. Okay. And those people are dead to me. I have nothing to do with them. Okay. But Jon Edwards was brought back with Larson to handle that type of stuff and to handle all of what the publicity that would be around Larson because Larson is a good person. Jon Edwards was a good person. And those two meshed together to work very well for him to do what he did. But you never saw anything but professionalism from Jon Edwards, no matter who he was talking to. And he protected his driver, which was his job, and he protected Hendrick Motorsports, which was his job. But he was also 100% honest for everything he's ever told me. Jon Edwards never misled me. If I was going to get an interview, I got the interview. If I wasn't going to get the interview, I didn't. And the one time that something came up, look, it's freaking motorsports. These people that take, I had an interview with so and so, and they skipped out on me. Well, Kevin Harvick did it to me at Martinsville. I drove 100 miles an hour to get there one year. Okay, literally got pulled over, convinced the cop not to arrest me. Okay, I get there, and Kevin Harvick can't meet with me. I was mad for about 2 seconds, and I'm like, okay, this dude's a race car driver. Something came up. It happens. But Jon Edwards made it up to me when it happened. I didn't get mad. I get it. Some people don't get it. But working with Jon Edwards through these years, I mean, he's been there every year that I've been in this sport.
Mhm.
And, he worked for Jeff Gordon, he worked for Kyle Larson, he worked for the Hendrick organization. And, you know, I found out that he had been sick on Friday and he went home Saturday from Darlington. I think somebody checked on him. He went to the doctor or something, and they were trying to get in touch with him on Tuesday. And later on, somebody went to check on him, and he had passed away. There was a write-up, I think it was in Charlotte Observer today, that it was believed to be related to a diabetic illness. Um, so, when you talk about that, and my wife's diabetic, okay? I have seen what that does. If you get low blood sugar or high blood sugar, it can kill you. It also causes complications with kidneys and other things in your heart. Um, so I don't know the true cause, but I know that that's what the article was, that it was related to some diabetic illness. My wife almost died twice in my arms from diabetes, from diabetic related issues. So um, I feel for his family. I mean, and he will be. There's a void because Jon Edwards was a legend in the PR world, in the motorsports world. Other PR people aspired to be half as good as he was. He was a mentor to many people, and there are many people that are broken up over losing over losing him as well. Just like there are the media people that are broke up over Al Pierce. We've lost two great people this past week.
And all on the same day too last week, Jerry. It was a very, very hard week. And I'd gotten to know Al a little bit over the years, but I really got to know Jon 2015, 2014 when I was first starting to do this more on a regular basis. And same thing, wanted to get interviews with Jeff Gordon. It just wasn't going to happen because it was that final year. But hey, I get it. There was time commitments, and Jon was upfront and honest every single time. And even after that, would see him at the racetrack, and all the conversations would circle back to New Mexico in some regard. He told me he'd never been here before, where I'm from, but we would always circle the conversation back. Oh, how is New Mexico? Or what's new out there? It was just always really good. He always didn't make it about himself. He was always caring about the other person. And I saw him in Las Vegas a few weeks back, and did get the chance to connect with him. And I'm just kicking myself on that. Saw him from a distance. Wish I would have just said a quick hello, but you just some of those regrets. But you can tell the impact he had too, because Jeff Gordon, like you said, Jared, was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to post about his dear friend. And I think the word friend gets tossed around a lot, but you can tell these two are very close. Jeff Gordon posted on his social medias, quote, "I am devastated by the loss of my dear friend Jon. For almost 3 decades, we were side by side through every high and low, every celebration, and every challenge. He was one of the most loyal, hardworking, and selfless people I've ever known, and I will be forever grateful for his immeasurable impact on my life and my career. My heart is with Jon's family and everyone who loved him. He was truly one of a kind." And I would hear Jeff mention when he was still racing about Jon and mention him any chance he'd get. You could tell they were very close. Jerry, I think I'm saving saying here, right? We hear a lot about how media are not necessarily friends with people that they cover. PR people are probably not necessarily friends with the people that they work with. You want to keep that strictly professional. And I know there's tons of professionalism here, but with Jeff and Jon, you can tell it went beyond the business of the sport. You can tell there was a little bit of a brotherhood there.
There definitely was. And,